Hi, everyone. We've set up this Being an Engineer podcast as an industry knowledge repository, if you will. We hope it'll be a tool where engineers can learn about and connect with other companies, technologies, people, resources, and opportunities. So make some connections and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Being an Engineer podcast. Today we're joined by Roopinder Tara, a visionary leader in engineering publishing with a career spanning over 2 decades. Currently the editor-in-chief at EngTechnica, Roopinder has launched and grown platforms like engineersrule.com and led content strategies at engineering.com and TenLinks. With a background in mechanical engineering and a passion for connecting engineers with cutting-edge content, Roopinder has shaped how technology and trends are communicated to the industry. Roopinder, welcome to the Being an Engineer podcast.
Hi, Aaron. Great to be here. Honor as well.
So this is going to be a fun episode because a little bit of background for the listeners. Roopinder and I connected, 3-4 months ago, something like that?
Yeah.
And he had found an episode of the podcast where I interviewed John Hirschtick, founder of SolidWorks and Onshape, and wanted to transcribe it for his website, EngTechnica. And we just started talking and realized that we had a lot in common, similar philosophies in the engineering world, and kind of hit it off. And a couple months later, we decided to partner up on the Wave.engineer. So Roopinder and I are working together now, building out this community on the Wave and the Being an Engineer podcast. So it's cool that we get to do an interview together because that's how we first connected. And it feels like it's come full circle now.
That's right. It is official now.
It's official. Yes. I always tell my wife, we're a real family now. After any, silly little thing happens, like on the outside of our house, we have this one light that has never quite worked right. And last night, my wife installed some new type of light bulb, and all of a sudden it worked. And I was like, oh, we're a real family now. This is great, And so you and I, we're on the podcast now. We're real partners now, doing a show together. Here it is.
I think one day our wives are going to have to meet as well, because I found one of the most interesting podcasts that you had done, Aaron, was one where your wife talked about what it's like to be married to an engineer. Every time my wife puts something together, I have to say, well, you're an engineer by proximity.
by osmosis, maybe. Nice. All right. Well, this podcast is not about the lights outside my house. So let's talk about you, Roopinder. How did you get started in engineering? And then how did you ultimately end up in publishing and journalism?
Boy, that's a good question. I asked that to myself many a time. How did I end up in publishing? Because that is not a route that most engineers take. But let me start a little bit at the beginning, if you'll permit. At the very beginning, it took me the longest time to even realize I was going to be an engineer. In fact, it was very murky beginnings in the beginning, because as a child, I had no idea what an engineer was. I don't think many children do, but I was growing up in India, and in India, my mom took me to market with her. And the Indian market's not like any other market you can imagine. It's got everything in it. It'll be people that will clean your ears, people that will do dental work. And we found, amongst everything else, the groceries and everything that my mom was trying to get, was a fortune teller. But again, not a fortune teller like you would think of. This was a fortune teller that had used a budgerigar, a little bird, and the bird would climb across a box of cards, kind of like tarot cards, and it would pick the box out. It would pick a card out of the box, and it would, the fortune teller would take the card and look at it, and he just handed it back to my mom. My mom never said a word. And I was just wondered what that was all about. I had no idea what was going on. And it didn't occur to me till a couple of years later, many years later, that my mom had asked what I was going to be when I grew up. And the card had said, he's going to be an engineer.
No way. Okay, was this after you had already started going to school to be an engineer, or was this? Oh, that is wild.
It's
Wow.
a tortuous path because, since I didn't have the bird's advice on hand, I wandered all over the place. I went through, I went through chemistry courses, which I failed at, which was a big embarrassment because my father was a research chemist, right? So I failed chemistry. Then I dropped out of business school, went to work, had a lot of fun, did anything but college for a couple of years until finally I went to went back into college because I felt like, hey, I wasn't going anywhere, getting anywhere, doing anything. Went back to college and then discovered, hey, I was good at math, right? Which math, again, was something that eluded me in my early days. But when I went to college, something just clicked. I found math was something I was reasonably good at. And from then on, it was like, well, if I can do math, well, then I could be an engineer. I didn't feel like I could be an engineer if I didn't figure out how to do the equations, which, like I said, eluded me in high school, but college somehow I just got it. So I don't know what happened.
It's funny how that happens. I have had very similar experiences, yet another similarity between us. I remember I did not understand algebra at all. Like I would go after class and get extra help, and I didn't get it. And then a year later I retook it and it all just clicked. It just made sense. And I did great with math after that. I think sometimes our brains just need a little time to get used to what we're trying to teach it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I still don't know. I wish I could bottle that up to and give it to people whatever that was, because I've tried to teach math to other people, right? Because now I get it, right? And this happened to my sister, my little sister. I was trying to teach math to. It's a quadratic equation. I was trying to explain it to her, like, hey, this is the easiest thing you could do. And she I think I made her feel so stupid that she grouped out and started crying. So, and I realized, hey, I'm no good at teaching, which I may get stuff, but I can't teach it. But somehow, I don't know why. This is another crazy thing. I ended up actually being a teacher. I actually ended up teaching beginning engineering classes at a community college. And by that time, I think something else had clicked because I didn't get too many complaints about my teaching. Nobody cried in my class.
That's a success right there when you can say nobody cried that day. So what were you doing during your hiatus from college? And then what was it that prompted you to go back to school?
Oh, okay. So in my hiatus, my hiatus was based on I wasn't making any money going to college. And I was around, 18, 19. And that was a time where I just wanted to, drive around cars and trade my car down the street and go to clubs, as we call them. Milwaukee clubs were the nightclubs. That was a good life. And I was able to get jobs at a chemical company where my father worked. Didn't end well because that's another story, but I won't go there at the moment. You'll have to buy me some drinks first before I get there.
All right, time for another.
Yeah, but that I was making good money. I was making good laborer wages, as it were, right? I was making, at that time, I forget what it was. This was 30 years ago. It was good money. It was better than any of my college buddies were making, right? I felt like I was a big man. So that for 2-3 years, I did that work. Second shift to the chemical company, weighing bulk chemicals into smaller bottles. And after a while, that got to me. I didn't feel like, I thought I was doing pretty good, but then a good friend of mine she said words to me that just changed everything. She said, even though I thought I was hot property, I had a cool car, and had leather jackets, and it was, I was making good money, I thought. She said, you're just in a rut. She said,
I was hoping that those words were going to be, I will. And it was going to be a reveal. Oh, she became my wife, and I realized I needed to shape up.
yeah, really. Oh, and I gave it a critical time. That was a time where my parents were moving, and all through my life, I moved from one place to another with my parents up until I was 18, 19. And then my father got a job that made us move from Milwaukee to the Philadelphia area. And then I had to make a hard choice. I could either stay here with my life, as it were, my good life, right? Or I could move with my family once again and start anew. And if I started anew, I could leave my partying friends behind and get out of my rut, as my friend called it, and start making something of my life.
Yes. Right.
Be an engineer, is right? Something. I didn't know that at the time. It took another 3 or 4 years of wandering around community colleges, finding the right courses, and then I realized, I can do math, be an engineer.
Nice. All right. So you went back to school. You got your degree in engineering, and then what happened?
So right away, then once I got my job in engineering, I realized I was a good catch, shall we say, to be a husband. Right?
So I did say I do. Yeah.
So as soon as I got the offer letter, I got an offer letter right away from a company that I was co-oping with. That's the program they had at Drexel, where you work for 6 months, then you go to school for 6 months. They call it a co-op program. And I ended up working. I got an offer from the company that had hired me for the co-op. As soon as I got the letter, I said, "Hey, dear, we have to get married." It was the worst, most unromantic proposal you could imagine. I don't know what you did, Aaron, but that, and I regret to this day I didn't do something more romantic than say, "Hey, dear, we have to get married." And I showed her the offer letter. It's like, I've seen so many movies where I say, "Oh, damn, I wish I had done that." Yeah, couldn't have hidden this ring in or something that she would bite on or see in an oyster or who knows what.
I'm sure you've made up for it since then.
I like to think so. You'll have to ask her.
When my wife and I got married, the single request that I had for the wedding was that we not dance, because I just hate dancing. I'm no good at it. I look like a complete fool. I feel like a complete fool. And so I said, please, can we just not have any dancing at our wedding? And she was a little bummed by that, but she was also very gracious and agreed to it. So that's what I feel guilty about, is not having dancing at our wedding.
Oh, Aaron, we're like twins separated at birth, because I'm same thing. I feel so self-conscious that I won't step on a dance floor. I'll shy away from events where I know there's dancing. And then my wife still manages to, however, do a slow dance. I could do a slow dance. That I can
do that. Yeah. Yes, I can rock back and forth slow. That's about the limit of my capabilities when it comes to dancing.
Oh, yeah. We should do a poll and see if this is true of engineers, because I've not yet seen, now that I think about it, I can't think of any time I've seen an engineer on the dance floor that looks like they should be on the dance floor.
Yeah, I can't say that I've seen anyone myself either. Perhaps an intrinsic limitation of engineers.
Might be on.
All right. So tell me about your entrance into the world of publishing.
Oh, okay. So it was accidental. I was started, but I was working in engineering. I started to write. I approached a magazine with an article idea. I was learning how to use finite element analysis, and in the process, I was coming across a lot of things that people don't learn in school. And I thought, hey, I should tell other people some of the practical aspects of FEA, because I was doing it the hard way and I was making mistakes. I was correcting mistakes. I thought I should tell other people about this. And at that time, I was working as an engineer at a electronics firm, defense electronics firm. So I said, I had just approached the biggest magazine at the time in CAD, and it was as right away I thought, no, they're not going to be interested because they're doing design work, CAD work, but they won't want an article about FEA. Why would they? But I was very surprised when that article. I saw that article. It's on my wall. It's the first article I ever submitted, and they next thing you know, it's on the cover of the magazine. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
First article ever, and it made the cover page.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It might have been extremely desperate.
Yeah, well, they had probably heard from that bird that, hey, this Roopinder guy, you better watch out for him. He's the real deal.
Yeah. No. And there's nothing, I don't think it has anything to do with talent. It's, it's always timing, and it's always, and I found out that, they had, I don't want to say been criticized, but they had been sort of sensitive to the fact that they weren't doing too many technical articles, and the people there weren't really they weren't users of CAD or FEA, especially not FEA, but they weren't users of CAD. So they were on a quest to step it up a bit in technology. So I think what happened was I, as an engineer, not even a writer, submitted an article. However poor it was, I got lots of credibility because I had an engineering degree, which they hadn't had up until this point. I don't think not many, if any, writers had been engineers. So that gave me a special ticket, as it were. So
yeah,
I ended up there. And then, so what led me into publishing? That was just an initial start into getting published. But I started writing other articles for them. And they also were very, I don't want to say popular, because you could never tell if something was popular those days. It was a magazine. You couldn't tell how many people read it. But apparently the publishers liked it. And I think they just liked anybody who could fill the pages, honestly, right? But I got a few of these in. And so I was in the area. I was consulting for a CAD company at the time. I ended up in San Francisco. The publisher, the editor-in-chief at that point said, hey, why don't you come and visit us at the office? Because the office or the magazine was in San Francisco. She said, come and visit me at the office. Let's go out to lunch. But it was a trap. So they had wanted a new editor-in-chief. She was resigning. And I said, I don't know. What is that, editor-in-chief? What exactly does that mean? I had no idea. I did not know how to spell it even, right? And then I was offered the top job as editor-in-chief. It's still to this day, I don't know if I was deserving of it but the money was good, right? The money was much better than I was making. I think at that time I'd become a instructor. So I was an instructor at a college, and the job was great. I think the job was probably the best job I ever had. I worked 3 days a week, right? I had the whole summer off. I could write articles. But here I got into publishing, and this was like, 50% more money. So I thought, I've got to be a fool to turn this down. This was good money, right? So well, long story short, I still think best job I ever had was not publishing, but I can't get away from it. It's like, and the way I rationalize it to myself is like, oh, well, I can teach a lot more people now than I could in a classroom. Right? I could teach instead of now with the internet, I can teach instead of 100,000 people with a magazine. I could reach tens of thousands, or I could reach even 1 million people.
When you first started that role as editor-in-chief, presumably you didn't really know what the job entailed. You're probably learning some things on the job. What was it like in the beginning? Like, what were a few of the first activities that you participated in or led? What were some of the things that you learned really quickly on the job?
Oh, yeah, working with people in publishing, it was a radically different environment. As soon as I got in, I realized I was out of my league. I was among different people. In first place, everyone was dressed differently. Everyone was a woman. Right? Many people were women. And in engineering, at our time, and still, I think to this day, it's been predominantly male. Well, here in publishing, it was very much a woman-led business. That was odd. I didn't have a problem with it. I even, how should I say? Some of my best friends were women. But then, and also they were very non-technical. I went to a magazine thinking somebody here must be somewhat technical because you're dealing with a technical subject most of the time. And even if you weren't educated in it, you'd acquire knowledge in it, but that just wasn't the case. So it was difficult for me to convey how important it was to learn technology by doing it, because there were people that were happy enough to not have to learn it deeply at all. Right? So that was a bit of a problem. And I think also they had that problem in opposite of me. I think I was too technical for them. I demanded too much from them to learn what they wrote about.
So over the years, it seems like maybe you started there as well, but if not, you kind of naturally gravitated towards an emphasis on CAD. Is that accurate?
Yeah. CAD is probably my first. When I started in CAD was very young. AutoCAD was just starting to come out. There were big workstation and mini computers. I think you're too young for this, Aaron, but do you remember DECVAX, or Intergraph, Applicon, McDonnell Douglas? Those are all the systems of the day, and they were...
This was pre-electricity, right?
Yeah, almost, definitely. So the IBM PC was just coming as I was entering the workforce. The PC was just happened to come along, but that time we were into, let me call it big time CAD. It was the old workstation that cost $25,000 each just for the hardware, and the software was $10,000 or $20,000 per year. It was big money, but that's where I actually became the CAD manager of the systems that CAD was being used at. So I was kind of, I'd say, modernized our drafting department and our engineering division into computer-aided design.
I have a question about that. So $25,000 for the hardware, another 10 to 20 grand per year for the software. How did companies justify the ROI? Were you just able to do things that you simply couldn't do without CAD? Or was the productivity enhanced so much that companies could justify spending that kind of money on CAD?
It was sold that way, or it was definitely sold that way, that we would be the figures quoted were ridiculous. Like you would be 10 times as productive. And to this day, I don't know what that was based on, but a lot of us swallowed that. And we bought it for that reason. It was, I don't know what it was at that time. It was almost a fever or a FOMO, fear of missing out. You get that. You were cutting edge. So companies did buy the big stuff. And there may be, in all fairness, there may be some truth to that 10x productivity because, rather than revise it, redraw a whole drawing, you could just change a line. It was done with electrons rather than starting over. That changes were easy to make. So there was some justification of it, but it existed. That sentiment that these big CAD, these big machines and expensive software could existed for, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. And that was just because it was so expensive. It didn't last as soon as PC-based CAD came out. It was just wiped out very quickly because the productivity just wasn't there to justify that big of an expense. And only a few engineers were allowed to have those workstations. We had to share ours between, I think 5 CAD workstations for maybe 25 engineers.
Was it fairly prestigious if you were a CAD engineer then?
Oh yeah. You had to really be worthy of your equipment. There's a marked distinction to be a CAD savvy engineer or simulation. Simulation, I would say, is probably what sold a lot of computers too, because that was something you just couldn't do manually. You wanted to do FEA or CFD or even electrical simulation, like wiring. You couldn't do that manually. If that was so, there the productivity was, I'd say, infinitely even.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of the biggest changes that you have seen in CAD over the years, and have they all been for the better, or have there been changes that you think have even been detrimental to the industry?
I think my biggest problem with CAD is that how it plateaued after its initial entrance into the mainstream. There's been a few. You could stretch the word revolution to include a couple of things that CAD has done. CAD itself was maybe a revolution because it replaced the drafting board. There was another one where 3D came about. There's another one where 3D became mainstream. It became inexpensive. It could be used, like SolidWorks could be used on PCs. I'd say that was a revolution. But then the curve sort of flattens out. And for the longest time, I think my biggest problem with CAD is it's not changing fast enough, right? I don't like initially CAD stands for basically it stands for computer aided design, right? And I thought it's not helping me design. It should have been by now helping me design. It's helping me make an object more accurately, right? I'm still designing on paper and I'm still designing in my head, right? And then I'm hoping to capture it exactly as geometry. It's not helping me design. And now lately, when AI comes in, now it's like, bam, it just got like so much more exciting. But maybe CAD could really be computer-aided design now, right? Maybe this is what we've been waiting for. Like, and I'm begging the industry, right? Let's finally make CAD be worthy of its name, right? Maybe you could now actually make it help. You could have it designed now, not just document, draft. So I think this is probably the most exciting time it's been in all my years in CAD. This is
How close do you think we are to CAD being deserving of its name? And what are some of the companies who are at the forefront of that advancement?
Is there anyone?
Or yeah, maybe that's the question. Is there?
Is there one? I find myself impatient with companies because, okay, so in the last 2 years, where AI has become a thing and it's on everyone's lips, it's my impatience is starting to show more because they're not. I don't think any company is adopting fast enough. Not fast enough for me. I want things to change in my lifetime, right? So I want to be able to say, hey, CAD, make me something to fit this motor on this chassis, right? Instead of trying to make the bracket, I want it to be able to do that, right? Big picture. Let's say I want to make this, hey, CAD, make this car electrified, right? So that to me is like what CAD should be doing, right? But let's go a step smaller. Let's say I just want a CAD to help me make a part that's maybe somewhat optimized. And I know CAD companies have been trying to sell, not just me, but the whole industry on, hey, we make lightweight parts. For like 10 years, we've been hearing about lightweighting parts by topology optimization. And they are some of the lightest parts you could imagine, but they don't work. But they don't work and they look goofy and they can only be made in 3D printing. And all the time I'm thinking, that's not really an optimized parts in all respects. So please don't try to sell that as computer-aided design either. I want when I make a part, let's say a bicycle frame, I know that that its members ought to be tubular. They ought to be, because tubes just work. Tubes are great in torsion. They're great in progression and tension, right? There's a reason why bicycle frames are made out of tubes, right? But if you give this job to a topology optimization program or generative design program, it comes out with this awful blobby, ugly shapes. And well, I've issued a challenge to these CAD companies to say, hey, make AI work for us. Don't try to give us topology optimization or generative design, blobby shapes I can't use that don't work. How about if you just help me position the tubes in a way that I think is the lightest frame? Couldn't I get it to do that, right? Could I have what would you call it? Parametric optimization, right? They change some parameters and it's the best arrangement of those members, right? Or if you apply it to another discipline, hey, if I'm making a wall, why don't you understand that I'm where I live, you have my position, right? You know the codes that are in place. You know how the 2x4s should be spaced. Know all that. I'll just draw the line. Why don't you figure out everything else, right?
Fill in all the details for me.
The details, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that I hope the industry will realize. Engineers don't need. No engineer is going to say, build me a house or build me a car, right? Engineer just says, hey, give me some help along the way. Don't make me do the drudge work. Don't make me do 100 permutations of different geometries so I get it just perfect, right? Do that part. I'll do that big system approach. I'll make fun product, right? Give me some assistance. So I'm working with a few trying to advise them, right? That this is how CAD should work. Because honestly, I think that they're having a difficult time with all the pressure they have to use AI. Everyone's telling them, hey, use AI. Their CEOs are saying, hey, programmers, coders, put AI in the program. Their public is saying, hey, I want AI in here because I heard it's great. And their investors are saying, hey, ChatGPT is making a ton of money, right? Millions. Why don't we use stuff like that, right? So they get pressure from all sides, and I'm trying to play engineer's advocate and say, this is what I really want engineers to this is what engineers really want in design products. Design assistance, not essentially full self-driving, full self-design, right?
Incremental steps. Let's go back to publishing real quick. Just a few more minutes and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
As a journalist, you have inherently a lot of power and responsibility because the things that you write can really influence and shape industries. How did you decide what to write about during your career in technical journalism?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's in publishing. You asked me before what was difficult to deal with in publishing, and one of the things that I just thought about now because as you asked the question, one of the things that I sort of how should I say became disillusioned with publishing for was that you couldn't always write about things you thought were important, right? I felt like I had an intrinsic knowledge of what engineers wanted to read or hear about because I was an engineer. I had this misconception, or should I say, conceited view that if I was interested in it, other engineers are going to be interested in it. And I sort of took that to the publishing world. I said, hey, let's write about this because it's interesting stuff. It's cool stuff. Engineers are going to want to read about it. But that wasn't always what came out. What came out was write about this because this is what our advertisers are doing, right? And there was a lot of this has been, I think, traditionally business to business publishing is ruined may be too strong a word, but it's influenced quite a bit by advertisers. So editors, no matter how principled they are, have to sort of be knowledgeable of that pressure and sometimes succumb to that pressure. They don't write whatever they want. It's like if company X is a big advertiser, you have an obligation to them because of that advertising to cover their product. So you might want to write about an up-and-coming CAD company, for example, but your publisher may not like that because you have a big CAD company that, I won't mention any names here, you have a big CAD company that's advertising with you. So that was it. But now I honestly feel like I can write about things that I want to write about because I don't accept advertising. So I can now decide. And again, it's based on if I think it's cool, right? If I think it's interesting, other engineers can too. Not sure that's working, but
well, let's wrap it up on that point, and maybe you can tell us just a little bit about where can we go to see what Roopinder thinks is cool and is writing about. We talked about the Wave already, but you have another platform that you're working on.
Right. My new platform is, and it's only less than 3 months old, is EngTechnica. So ENG for engineering and Technica, technical. So EngTechnica.com. That's my latest thing. Partnering with you, Aaron, and that's also this new venture.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, check out EngTechnica and, of course, the Wave as well. We hope to see you there. Roopinder, thank you so much for being a guest on the Being an Engineer podcast. What a pleasure it was to have an opportunity to interview you and bring your story to the community of engineers that listen.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
I'm Aaron Moncur, founder of Pipeline Design and Engineering. If you liked what you heard today, please share the episode.
To learn how your team can leverage our team's expertise developing advanced manufacturing processes, automated machines, and custom fixtures, complemented with product design and R&D services, visit us at teampipeline.us. To join a vibrant community of engineers online, visit thewave.engineer. Thank you for listening.